Merry meet.
Merry
Merry
meet,
meet.
and welcome to the Festival Fun Show here on Witchcraft TV.
Yeah.
This is one of our special segments about Hexfest in New Orleans. So, what is Hexfest? It's a weekend of witchery, an in person festival in New Orleans, presented by Warlocks Incorporated, Brian Kane and Christian Day, from August 8th through the 10th, 2025. Hexfest is all about New Orleans with the ambience of the Crescent City and the Mississippi Delta. Participants stay in the historic, luxurious Bourbon Orleans Hotel and enjoy such activities as a riverboat cruise and a ritual, tours of the historic French Quarter, and plenty of time for shopping. The festival itself has classes and workshops presented by notable witches, root workers, voodoo priests and priestesses, and conjure workers. Register now to attend Hexfest 2025. Today we're talking with Uncle Birch of New Orleans, Louisiana, who will be presenting 3 classes at Hexfest. Welcome, Uncle Birch.
Merry meet, y'all. Glad to be back.
Well, it is really nice to see you. For those who don't know, those like 3 people that have been living in the basement for the last 10 years, Uncle Birch is a witch, a polero, and a root worker. And he presents a lot of classes in New Orleans and for the Warlocks various festivals and gatherings. So we will start off by asking you, what is a polero? Am I pronouncing it right?
A polero is a practitioner of Palo. It can be Palo Mayombe, Palo Kimbisa, Palo Monte. There's many different versions, but a polero is a practitioner of Palo, an African traditional religion.
Ah, is it similar to hoodoo, conjure, voodoo, any of those?
There's similarities. In Palo, there's an equivalent to every what other traditions would call an orisha.
Mhm.
But they tend to have a different name, but they tend to have the same holy days, same likes, dislikes, even color associations tend to be the same. But it is different than those.
Ah, okay. And you also had something about anarchic witchcraft on your site. What is anarchic witchcraft?
I It probably said anarchistic witchcraft.
Oh, okay, okay. It
And
probably did.
anarchy, it's confused in our present day. Anarchy means self-government more than it means no government. Uh, a prophet of anarchy, Utah Phillips, said, an anarchist is anybody that doesn't need a cop to tell them what to do. I do what is right because it is right, not because there's a person with a gun forcing me to do what's right. I don't harm others because there's a person with a gun in between me and the others. I just don't do that. It's self-government, not
It's
no government.
self-governing witchcraft.
Yes.
Ah. So your bio notes, you grew up in the craft and that you had a store in California. Did your family own it?
Yes, the Sacred Grove, I probably owned that for 20 years
Wow.
and only stopped doing that because I didn't want to live there anymore. It was a small town. Uh, I went into it with the idea that the more witch stores there are in a town, the more secure the witch community. Uh, but a person that moved into the town later didn't have that philosophy, and they engaged in lots of dirty tricks and lots of
Oh, that's too bad.
crap, and eventually just got sick of it. Said, I'm going to move around. My living at that point had come from teaching witchcraft online, and as long as there was an internet connection, I didn't have to live anywhere that I didn't want to. So I moved several places in California, then West Hollywood, then Hollywood proper, which is where I ended up on Cursed Films, and then moved to New Orleans. I think that's another question you were going to ask later, so I don't know if I'm
Yeah, I was
moving too
wondering
much
what
into
drew
that.
you. What drew you to New Orleans?
Well, I came here in 2019 to teach at Hexfest. I was invited by Christian Day. And I came with my strongest shit because I thought for sure they'd never have me back. Nobody was ever going to teach the kind of crazy shit that I was going to teach. It was like magic, 3 different magical warfares. I don't even remember what all I taught, but I remember back then the Catholics were, local Catholic Church was protesting Hexfest. And they made a video about their protest of Hexfest that year. And they mentioned 4 classes, and 3 of them were mine in their propaganda video. And the last one was magical warfare, crush the enemy. And I told myself later, I said, you know what? I'm going to find that guy and I'm going to hire him as a motivational speaker to just walk behind me all day long in New Orleans, just go, crush the enemy, crush the enemy. Alas, the Catholics lost interest with us in the years after that and haven't seen them protesting Hexfest since. But so that's 2019 August. And this town got its filthy claws in us. And like we would go out in Hollywood, you know, we're old, we got a kid, we get a sitter or something, we go out in Hollywood. We'd be home by 10. And we would have had a full night. Here we were out till like 4 a.m. at Potions, man, all night, man. It was the best time I ever had. This town just has a magic that just sucks you in. So that's August. November, we're here looking for a house. Because when the subject came up, it's like, well, they have internet there, right? That's really all we need is internet. We don't have to stay in Hollywood. We sell this place, move there. It was kind of a no-brainer. And then January, we were pulling up front. January 9th, I think. And a couple months later, COVID happened. So it was interesting timing to move to New Orleans. But I always got to put a shout out. Like when we did that, I had been to Hexfest one time. I had met Christian and Brian one time. They didn't know me other than some dude on the internet teaching witchcraft. And when Christian Day heard that we were going to move to New Orleans, he insisted on going with us and coaching us and checking out the houses. And one of the first things he taught me was the most important thing. If you ever want to move to New Orleans, floodplain X. You look at the floodplain map and you don't buy anything that is not floodplain X. We've never had a flood. Everyone around us is flooded. Probably right now, there's people flooding about several blocks away. He really, for somebody I barely knew, went out of his way for me. And for all the crap he catches on the internet, I will always remember that. Now I will always say he had my back, but he didn't know who the hell I was. So I have his back on a great many things.
He and Brian are just
He
great
ultimately
guys.
picked this house. He picked this house, and this is the house we're living in.
Yep, they are just absolutely great guys.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I didn't know that.
good
That's
friends
cool.
to have. So I read that you worked as a psychic reader. I also read you worked as a medium, and then you told me that was not exactly correct. So do
No.
you do spirit contact?
I do, but not professionally. Like, you know, it definitely comes up in Palo. You kind of have to do that kind of thing. But I'm an anarchist witch, but I'm also a unionist witch. I come from a long line of union organizers, and I am not a medium, so I will not trump into the space of professional mediums. I will not do another job that I'm not qualified for. You know, as a witch, you have to be psychic. You have to do divination. You don't necessarily have to be a medium as well. but I have many friends that are. So when I need that, I call on them. That's their job, not mine.
So you do more of a work as a reader, and what modes of reading, of psychic reading, do you do?
Well, it all depends. If I'm, working Palo, I'm doing the Chumalongos. Most times I'm probably doing tarot or bones.
What is Chamalongo? Is that something I'm not familiar with at all?
I'm not sure if I don't think it's really a secret. It's a divination technique in Palo, uh, which has several circular pieces of coconuts with an X or an O on each side. And you cast them, and depending on how many X's or O's you got, that gives you your answer to your question.
Huh. It's kind of like with coins with heads or tails.
It's very similar to coins. Yeah, yeah,
Okay, so I know a little bit about that.
yeah.
Um, so what has been your most rewarding and your most challenging work as a reader?
Well, uh, probably my most challenging and my most rewarding was probably at the same time. I, at a certain point in my initiation process, I went to Santa Cruz and did a whole bunch of things, and I think one of your questions will lead me to that later. But one of the things I did was I read on the street. I was a busker, and in my guitar case, there was a little card that says free tarot readings. And occasionally people would stop me after a song and ask for a tarot reading. For me, it was developmental works, like reading for random strangers on the street um, is an incredible learning experience, an incredible uh, training experience. And this girl rolled up on a wheelchair and crossed my palms with paper and asked, "Do I have AIDS? And am I gonna die?"
Ooh.
And it's like you never want such a direct question. You can't really turn into anything good. But throughout the cards, it's like, no, you don't have AIDS. You're not going to die. You're going to find out something in about 2 weeks that's going to aid your recovery. And then I watched her recovering, and then I watched her not in a wheelchair. All this because I was just on the street all day, every day. Um, was able to see the transformation that came from that reading. So I think the most challenging and the most rewarding, all in one answer.
That's amazing. That's great. What's your favorite tarot?
I use the Witch's Tarot. And there's a couple called the Witch's Tarot, but mine has like a silver pentagram on the back on a black background. And that symbology tended to work for me. They all have similarities with the Rider Waite and that kind of thing, but there are variations that I like with the Witch's Tarot.
Variations of the Pamela Colton Smith deck.
Mm. Well, like
Uh-huh.
a big thing I always say when you're choosing a tarot, it depends on the path you're brought up in. So, like the path I was brought up in, blades were fire and wands were air. And in other traditions, they switch,
Right.
and like the Rider Waite, wands are fire and blades are air. And there are two very distinct variations of the craft that believe those contrasting things. So, depending on the tradition you were brought up in, you might want to lean more towards one or the other. And in the Witch's Tarot, blades are fire. And to me, blades are very fiery.
Yeah, same here. So I read that you were a police officer in California, and that sounds really dangerous and challenging. If I understand right, you exposed some pretty terrible corruption. So, did your life as a magical person intersect in any way with your job as a police officer?
Absolutely. I, through a long history of working security and corporate security and military security, was able to like slip my way into this cop job, even though I was an anarchist.
Mhm.
They asked me, "Are you now or have you ever been a member of the Communist Party?" They did not ask me if I was an anarchist. I slipped in, and I was on a mission to change the system from within. I was young and ambitious and naive. And I probably did some really good things. I helped some people. I saved some weak. I put away some bad guys, but I did not change the system from within. Um, Now, to the question of witchcraft, at this moment in history, I had just completed my high priest initiation. And in my high priest initiation, I had agreed in my priest initiation that when the goddess called, I would do what she called me for. I oathed myself away to the goddess Hecate. And then she called right about then. And and I said, I hesitated. She called for my priesthood. I just went through my high priesthood. She called for me to do her bidding, and I resisted. The first thing I said, it's like, well, I worked really hard to get this career where I'm gonna do all this great stuff and change the world and things. She said, "Oh, honey, is is, is that in your way? But let me take care of that for you." Boom. I mean, she blew it up by me turning in my sergeant for beating a Mexican guy that was in handcuffs,
Ooh.
and then nothing happening to him, and then him still being my sergeant on graveyard shift in the port of Long Beach, the best place to dispose of a body. And yeah, they tried to make me a body
Mhm.
many times. And my last hoorah, right before I came in and threw in my badge, like when my sergeant beat the guy in handcuffs, it was about 3 weeks after Rodney King.
Oh.
And we were being trained to avoid cameras, not to not beat people that have already submitted. But then Beltane came up. Remember, April 29th was the Rodney King riots? Well, I was the high priest, and I had been called to lead the Beltane ritual for my tradition, knowing that this would be the last time I would ever see most of these people. And I went all out. There was 26 active participants, 15 musicians, all like weaving the circle together with instruments. The goddess needed to ride in on a white horse, of course, and the most beautiful white horse is an Arabian, but the Arabian was tweaky, and so it had to have its partner come with it. So I fucking trailered in two fucking horses. My
Oh.
tradition had been collecting funds for rituals for years and not spending them. I was like, I'm gonna drain that bank account on the way out. I did a 2-day ritual loosely based on the Beltane Eve and Beltane rituals of the Mists of Avalon. And during that time, the Rodney King riots started. And I was up there with my people, and I went out to where the radio would reach, and I listened to what was on the news because my pager kept going off. But back then, it was kind of easy if you're up in the mountains to say, I never got the page because I was being recalled to fight in the Rodney King riots
Ooh.
rather than conduct Beltane. Clearly, that was not going to happen. So I did not show up for that. And Beltane went on, and that was my last big hoorah with that tradition. And I'm sure there was a question I was answering. Oh yeah, how the cop thing tied in. Yeah,
Mhm.
I think I answered the shit out of that. Okay.
I think you did. Ah, I just wondered if you used any like psychic abilities while as a police officer.
Always, everything I had. I've done other things, but was always a witch. I mean, ultimately, I was raised to run a witch store, and
Mm.
then ultimately did that too. I was raised to teach witches and did that too. But I did some other side things that give me good stories to tell. And that's, I can use those stories to teach witchcraft. It's all about having good stories.
Now you have a store there in New Orleans too, don't you?
No, I've got an online store, but
Oh,
I,
okay,
I,
okay.
I
So no
ran,
brick and mortar, just
yeah, no, I ran my shop for 20 years in Santa Cruz, California. And people have been trying to convince me to do that. But um, we'll see. There's a climate of hostility between some of the shops that I don't want to jump into that. I don't. When I left Santa Cruz, my enemy shop, they had decided that they were my enemy. They had gotten wind that I was moving to Los Angeles, and um, her, Susan Diamond, and Orion Foxwood drove to Los Angeles in the middle of the night, specifically to trash me to the entire community down there before I arrived. Um, Unbeknownst to them, I'd reached the point in my career where community was not what I needed. My community is worldwide. My community is all over the internet. And I never reached out to the LA community the entire time I was there. But it was, nasty bullshit. I don't want to, if they have any of that nasty bullshit going on here, I don't want to get involved.
right. Lottie Gonzalez says, I feel like we're sitting around the fire listening to Uncle Birch tell us stories. Who's got the s'mores?
Perfect.
Thank
Perfect.
you,
That's
Lottie.
what
Thank
my
you for
classes are
being
like too.
Uh, so tell us a little bit about your witchcraft teachings, like Witch School and your show on Witchcraft TV, and your classes and any of your other work teaching witchcraft.
Well, my the classes for the more serious witches are at gumroad.com /witch school, which is now the common spelling. I used to spell it weird, and Christian kept giving me a hard time about that, so just witch school. And then on YouTube, I'm closing in on well over a decade, maybe like 15 years on YouTube. And I had this student, he was like 14 years old, and he took one of my classes. Now, even though I was about 13, 14 years old when I started studying witchcraft, I've never seen a kid that young finish the class. And this was it was five classes. Intro to witchcraft. He made it to 3. And then somebody told me, hey, he's out there teaching witchcraft on YouTube. I go, I barely knew what YouTube even was. And so I went, I found him, and this kid had absorbed everything that I had said in the 3 days that he showed up, turned it into his own language, his own presentation, and was fucking teaching witchcraft. Now, when let me not get too lost, but when I started teaching witchcraft, I was not authorized to teach witchcraft either. I was way too. I had just started. Intro to Witchcraft was a 13-week course there, and was teaching my punk rock friends witchcraft. And they found out. My elders found out, and they said, "You are not like in that tradition. Second degree is teacher, first degree is initiate. Third degree is priest, and then fourth degree is high priest. So they've got a whole other addition there." And they said, "You cannot teach." And I said, well, you taught me precise speech leads to precise thought, right? And they said, yeah. I said, well, I may not teach, But whether I can teach or not would require you to check my students. And these motherfuckers, they convened an entire witch council,
Oh
and
my.
13 of them behind a door. And I'm sitting in the hallway, and they called 5 of my students, and they brought them in one by one. And when they came out and the smoke cleared, they rushed me into scheduled my first degree initiation, scheduled my second degree initiation, put me with a student teacher to learn how to teach. So can and may are whole different things. So when I saw this kid out there just teaching fucking witchcraft with no permission, against the rules, I was impressed. And he was doing a good job. And I sent him a message. And he said, "You should do that." I said, "What?" And he goes, "You should teach witchcraft on YouTube." I go, "Whoa, wait a minute. You can't do that. That's against the rules. It's against tradition." Blah, blah. And I felt so fucking old as I typed that and still hit send. I made my first video about 10 minutes later. And I've been on there at least 15 years. So whole lot of free content on YouTube, a whole lot of, more serious content on gumroad.com/witch school. And I'm getting ready to open a new venue. There's a new service that is charging less money than Gumroad. So I'm also going to put my classes there and see if I can, sell them, cheaper, because Gumroad's been kind of crazy over the years. They keep charging more money to me.
We've got the below here about how to access your classes, and also to go to Hexfest, where you're going to be teaching free classes. Tell us a little bit about some of your other ventures, such as your Widdershins podcast and the Stay the You Know What at Home.
Well, Widdershins probably about 10 years as a podcast. We used to do it every week, and then we did it like once a month, and then we did it every week for a while. And we did it as an audio podcast with a whole lot of music, a whole lot of punk rock. So a lot of the videos, a lot of that can be found on my YouTube channel. None of them can be monetized because, we didn't get permission from all the punk bands we played. And then sometimes it will reappear suddenly. A lot of times around Hexfest or WitchCon, but right now you're all doing a marathon on Hexfest, so it might take the pressure off of us. We might not have to do that, and we would do that, and that's when I've interviewed AC here as well.
Yeah, that was
When
for
we do
Witchcraft.
like the marathon, we do like 3 or 4 broadcasts a day just to get them all in there. And then the State of Fucking Home show was something we started during COVID lockdown. And it was just a daily show on Facebook, and we would just talk about all kind of random stuff, and interact with our viewers. And we had a little bit of merch, and people would, T-shirts and coffee mugs and that kind of thing. Eventually, because people wanted that kind of thing, and we just those people kind of became like a family, after COVID. And so we stopped after COVID, and then we reignited it for a little while, and now we just kind of pop up here and there. But several of those people have come to New Orleans, and it's like we're long lost friends, even though that's the first time we ever got to touch each other and hug and stuff. COVID, um, I'll tell you, COVID was good times for a guy that teaches witchcraft on the internet. Everybody had a year and a day to study, man.
Well, that's how WitchCon got started. Is there weren't any
Yes.
festivals or gatherings, so
Yeah.
Christian Day had the idea of doing an all online
Yeah.
gathering,
Mhm.
and other people were having 2 or 3 people show up and teach some classes, but he went all out. I think there was like 80, 90 witchcraft teachers, and now there's over 100. So it's just really burgeoned and
Well,
sustained for such a long time.
well, that guy goes all out.
He does.
He's like, probably, I mean, he's probably the most successful person that I know of in our industry, but he's also the most hardworking.
Mm.
Uh, he's like, when he gets off on a tangent like that, man, you can barely talk to him. It's like, I'll be on the phone and he'll be like typing
Mhm.
and talking what he's typing while he's typing.
He doesn't do anything halfway, that's for sure.
No, he does not.
So you're going to be on this coming up, like this next year, right? Be doing some classes for WitchCon.
Yep.
Okay, cool.
WitchCon. I'm at Hexfest. I've been every Hexfest since 2019. And this year, 3 classes. So,
Yeah, we'll get into those for a minute, but first I wanted to ask you about you do a magic self defense, magic warfare. I assume that's about protection. Tell us about that and what does that entail?
well, it's a bit, it's protection, but it's also counterattack. I mean, some of those classes, though, those are the ones that I first came to Hexfest with. Remember, magical warfare, crush the enemy. That was one of those. And I am a TikTok witch. I got sucked into TikTok, and I found so many, well-meaning kids out there, and a bunch that are not well-meaning. Um, Somebody needed to stay there and keep teaching some real witchcraft. Even though I've lost, probably 10 accounts, I just keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. And the Magical Warfare series, unfortunately, is one of the biggest sellers on Witch Talk because those kids are always attacking each other.
Mhm.
Um, and one of them, probably the biggest seller, is Magical Warfare Feeding on Your Enemies, where you take the energy that your enemy is sending you, transmute it into energy for your own use, and then literally your enemy is doing your spell for you. You don't have to do anything. And that's been a big seller on TikTok because of the nature of TikTok.
Let them do the work for you.
Yep, yep,
Do you do things like teach people how to protect their homes and their
oh,
businesses and so forth?
absolutely. I believe I got a class on, I think that's one of my classes at Hexfest.
Let me look. I've got the names of them right here. We have Uncle Birch presenting these classes at Hexfest. So please tell us a little bit about each one. We've got Safety Among Social Media Witches, The Old Ways Revive, and Magical Warfare, Fighting Dirty from the Circle to the Streets.
you know, I, 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 I submit those classes like months and months and months ago. And until you read them, I haven't really looked at what I said I was going to teach.
Oh,
Um, I usually prepare for the classes maybe an hour before, maybe a day before if I'm really feeling froggy. But I found that I'll jot down some talking points, and then as soon as the camera comes on or I'm on the stage teaching witchcraft, it happens regardless of the script in front of me. And I'll be like, 30 minutes into it before I even get to my talking points. And it just take me a long time to just accept that. I'm always trying to tell myself, okay, get prepared, get your shit. I don't have to be prepared. You turn it on. Uncle Birch is going to teach you some fucking witchcraft, period. So the first one, well, I kind of was leading into that with the TikTok stuff, how to keep yourself safe in internet spaces. It's different, protecting your digital picture, protecting the digital picture of your house, the aerial picture of your house, and protecting your IP address. Um, these kind of things. I don't want to give too much away because you got to come here to New Orleans, experience the whole thing, and then what was the one after that?
there was The Old Ways Revived.
Ah, oh, I've been on a tangent about that one. That's going to be a series. I think I'm teaching another version of that at WitchCon. Um, and then I'm creating a series about that too, because I'm like 45 years teaching witchcraft. Um, Probably been a witch 50 years, but I didn't know what I was, for a few years. And I remember a time when we all, regardless of our particular tradition, our particular angle, we all knew the same basics. There was certain universal truths, certain laws of nature, certain laws of physics that magic was governed by, and we all knew those things. And we disagreed about a great many other things, but nobody disagreed about those things. And then Wicca just at a certain point just took off, and fucking anything could be Wicca. And you just, that's where you get the ideas that float around on TikTok. Say, do whatever you feel, and intent is all that matters. Shit like that. It's like those kind of ideas came from when Wicca just ran amok. And when Wicca ran amok, we lost most of that. Most of these kids I talk to don't know the basics, don't know the basics. I can't imagine why they're even here, because without those basics, their magic can't be working very well. And maybe it's a fluke, maybe a couple times it worked, I don't know, but those basics have been lost to the generations of now. And I remember them. The long memory is the most radical idea in America. I believe it was a feminist activist that said that. But I have spent most of my life trashing my short-term memory, but my long-term memory is fucking spot on.
I've had some experience with that. We had a ceremony we just went to recently, and the young people involved were very enthusiastic, but they just did not know what they were doing. And we just kind of sat there and went, okay. So
Yeah.
I think that what you're doing is really needed to give people some foundation, give some people some basics about what they need so their magic works. You
The
know,
biggest amount of flack I get on the internet is when some self-appointed high priestess that's like 16 years old, um, is mad at me because I just taught something that they weren't taught by their teachers or their high priesthood. I go, I always say the same thing. It's like, look, I'm not trying to hold anything over anybody's head. I'm not trying to act like I'm the wise, all-knowing fucking sage. If you just shut the fuck up, I will teach you that thing. Just shut up. Just listen. I will teach it to you. Doesn't matter if your teachers didn't teach it to you. I'm teaching it to you. If you could, if you could find that I'm wrong, fucking tell me I'm wrong. But that doesn't happen that often with regards to magic.
well, I really appreciate you being here and talking to us today. So, what are some of the, if you can do this without giving away the whole farm, say that somebody gets mad about the way, they don't like your music or the way you part your hair or whatever, and they decide they're going to curse you. What would your reaction be for the self defense or fighting dirty?
I would cast my transformation shield from magical warfare, feeding on your enemies, and then piss them off some more.
You just suck up all their energy.
Yes. There's several times you can find on. I think I first did it on YouTube, and I've done it on TikTok a few times. It's the first time I did it on YouTube. Um, yeah, I had some extra bills, and I really needed help paying them, and so I cast that spell, and then I put out a video that was called "Real Witches Don't Vote Republican." knowing what shit I would catch.
Mhm.
And, people were going to be mad at me and cussing me out. And the ones that knew magic were going to be throwing magic at me. And, hey, bills got paid. That's all that really matters.
So does your witchcraft intersect with activism? You've alluded to that a couple of times. So, or
Okay.
how does your witchcraft intersect with activism?
Okay. Well, your audience likes stories. So buckle up, Buttercup. Um, During the Kosovo War in Santa Cruz, I was on communications. I was monitoring our various walkie-talkies from the activist groups that I was working with, and monitoring the police scanner. And um, there was this certain guy that was in the I believe it was the net team, the undercover team. And whenever he spoke, you knew that he was like in a bush or under a car or on a building or something. He was always the covertest guy. And he is shouting out, arrest them all if they don't move. So I grab a walkie-talkie, I hop on my bike, pedal a couple blocks over to there, and there's a paddy wagon, and people are shaking the paddy wagon. And so I threw my bike down in front of the paddy wagon. I grabbed a sign. I jumped in front of the paddy wagon with some of my comrades. I go, "Why are we in front of this fucking paddy wagon?" And he says, "Oh, so and so and so and so got arrested, and they're in the paddy wagon, and we're not going to let them take them." I said, "All right." Got my sign. I'm doing my thing. And I had become a father um, just a year or two before that. And there's this father gene that kicks in that I was not expecting. And at a certain point where we're wrestling around and stuff and things are going off, I hear this little girl screaming, "Mommy, mommy, don't let them take me. Mommy, mommy, don't let them take me."
Ooh.
And I look behind the paddy wagon and there's this little girl and the cops are like clawing her away from her mom.
Oh my gosh.
Next thing you know, now I'm a former cop.
Mhm.
I'm an activist. I've been through all the nonviolence training that there is. I know what not to do. But next thing you know, I'm in the fray, wrestling with cops, trying to get this kid away. And at a certain point, I end up grabbing the billy club of this cop, and I'm kind of leading him away from the thing. And this other activist, a guy named Steve Argue, came up and punched a cop in the nose and ran away. And it was like on cop shows for years. And most of the cops chased that guy, except for the cop that I'm wrestling with. Meanwhile, the mother and the child go that way, and somebody leads them down a hallway to where they're out on the Pacific Garden Mall, and they get away. But I'm wrestling with this cop that has known me for years. I'm a well-known activist. I run the pirate radio station in town. I'm a busker that plays anti-cop songs right in front of him all day. I knew this kid when he went to the academy. Young Officer Tripp. I am in a struggle with young Officer Tripp, and I've wrestled him into the middle of the street where, remember, the net guy that's up on top of the building watching him? He's right fucking there. I know where he is. I'm on camera right now. But I'm doing it. It's too fucking late. He looks me in the eyes, and my name back then was Phil Free. And he says, "Phil, let go. Let go or you're going to jail." And as soon as we locked eyes, I threw the fucking most intense glamour of my fucking life down his fucking Gulliver. Forget me, forget me, forget me, even though you know me. And I saw it on camera later in the back of a courtroom. He stumbles back a few steps, turns and grabs this other kid, some college kid, and he starts wrestling with this kid. Um, I saw it on camera. It was most controversial thing. It was playing in the city council meeting, playing in court cases. I'm in disguise in the back of the fucking courtroom, watching myself fucking give myself away. They would love to get Phil free. They never could get Phil free on anything. And here he is in the center of the screen, fucking putting his hands on a cop. And
Wow.
about 6 months into that trial, I get a call from the lawyer of that other kid who the cop went over and grabbed instead. And he says to me, he says, so, Mr. Free, I've reviewed the footage, and it seems clear on the footage that you did all of the things that my client is accused of. And he didn't actually do those things. And I'm not your lawyer. I can't advise you, but it would be the right thing for you to turn yourself in. And I said, nobody else saw that on the screen. Not in the city council meeting, not in the fucking court hearings. Nobody saw it. The glamour translated to video, except for this one fucking lawyer. And I told him, I said, yeah, you're right. You're right. Right is right. I'll fucking testify. I'll admit that I did it. And I was scheduled to go in 3 days later, but 2 days later, they reached a plea agreement, and that kid took a plea, and I never had to go take the stand.
Magic works.
I know you weren't expecting such a long story, but
that was a great story. That was a great story. Thank you for that.
Good story.
Oh, is there anything else? We've got about 10 minutes. Is there anything else that you'd like to tell us about your practice or about your classes or good advice?
I'm always adding new classes. I'm always, putting them on YouTube, on TikTok as well. But I'm always adding new classes to gumroad.com/witch school, which is now the common spelling. I always have to stop myself from spelling it that other way because it's just like habit at this point. But always teaching new stuff. Have found, and I would suggest this to people, when you learn enough, you should teach. Teaching is the ultimate learning witchcraft experience. Start teaching what you know, and people will ask you things that you've never thought of, and you will have to figure that out. A long-running thing that I did all over the internet for the longest time was called Ask Uncle Birch. And I just pop up on various Facebook pages, YouTube pages, whatever, and just like, have at me, man. What do you got? Ask me fucking questions. I've been teaching witchcraft longer than your parents been alive. Just ask me fucking questions. And occasionally somebody come up with something I never thought of. And then I'd have it.
I got a question for you, Uncle Birch.
Yeah. Finally, you chime in.
This is my question. What is the one thing that you teach new students of the craft that you always know that their prior engagements never taught them? What's the first thing you teach them that you just know off the bat that most teachers don't teach the students?
Unfortunately, in this day and age, which is part of my the old ways revived, a huge important thing that I found myself having to repeat on every social media where there's witches ever. That was the biggest no-brainer when I was a kid. When you banish, you must invoke. Nature abhors a vacuum. When you get rid of a curse, you've got to put happiness or something in place of that curse, or you get the curse back. And there's unscrupulous practitioners that know these rules that won't tell their client that, or won't put something good on the client after that. And the curse will go away. And then a couple weeks later, it'll come back just like it was. And then they get another, $200-300 or whatever they were charging. They have a client on the hook forever. Because the clients can see, oh, it worked. Then there must have been something that I did that brought it back. It's like, no, you didn't put anything in the hole, and nature abhors a vacuum. You can't pull weeds and not plant plants there, or you're going to get weeds. And this idea is the foundation of so many magics, and probably the best way to describe it. But this can be a candle too. Anything that we use as a focal point and then remove from this plane, a candle, a sigil, incense, what have you, something that we transmuted it into another form and removed it from this plane. We are using that law of nature. We are forcing nature's hand. She has to move to fill that void. If we make a sigil of that thing and put enough concentration on that thing and then remove that thing from this physical plane, she has to move to put something in that hole. And it is our hope that she puts the object of our desire in that hole, not just the sigil.
That is really good advice. Lottie Gonzalez says, I just bought the Feeding on Your Enemies class. Somehow I missed it.
Yes.
Hey.
Good. Well, give me a shout if you have any questions. I use that myself. And I believe that was one of the classes that I taught at Hexfest the first time I was here. That is very useful. I mean, people use it for feeding on your enemies, but once you've got the technique down, you can transmute any energy you want into anything you want. I even, if somebody close to me is in a really bad mood, I might throw that around them and convert that into energies that reflected back on them that put them in a good mood. But I don't know if they're watching, so I don't want to give that away.
Have you found, this is kind of a extemporaneous question because I just thought of it. Have you found that most traditions of witchcraft or magic users are pretty much the same at the core, or are there like huge differences?
I would say the similarities are more than the differences. Some of my Alexandrian friends here, one in particular would probably argue with me all day on that one. But I've been around a lot. In my parent tradition, it had a certain traditional element, but under the umbrella of that tradition, there were subsects of all these other traditions. So there's like a Gardnerian one, an Alexandrian one, a fairy one, all still under the umbrella. So I got to dip my feet in many pools, and I would say our similarities are more than our differences. I mean, as I always say, and this is probably maybe even more important than the other thing that you asked me for. The old people in my tradition and many traditions used to say, the craft is heard on the wind and seen in the wild. And they would just leave you to try and figure out what that meant. And a lot of what I know that meant, heard on the wind is electricity, wind is thought, wind is east, wind is air. Ideas just travel around the planet. We have probably the most common magical and ritual space on the planet of all indigenous cultures and pagan cultures is the circle marked off by the cardinal points. And we've run into cultures that have had no contact with any other culture, deep in the rainforest and shit, doing the same thing. Those ideas just travel. They're born, maybe they're in our ancestral memory or something. But then seen in the wild, nature moves in certain patterns that have a psychological effect on us when we observe them. The circle, again, being one of the most important ones of those. I don't want to give away too much of that, because also in that tradition, they taught that wisdom cannot be given. It's the search for knowledge that brings wisdom.
So the individual has to make some effort to
Yeah, figure out, what does that mean, heard on the wind and seen in the wild? Figure that out.
Well, we really appreciate you coming and talking with us today, Uncle Birch.
I had a great time.
Hell
Festival
yeah.
Fun Show, and we're looking forward to Hexfest in New Orleans, August 8th through 10th, and the Bourbon Orleans Hotel. Correct? Is that the right one?
It is an epic time, y'all. You really need to come. Kicking off the entire thing, the riverboat dinner and ritual. We take a classic steamboat out on the Mississippi, and they have every type of New Orleans food you'd ever want to have, except crawfish, because it's not crawfish season. It's all included in the thing. You got an open bar. You got to pay for your drinks. But then there's this ritual, and in this ritual, Christian Day sings the song of Marie Laveau, and it's an epic thing to watch. He's got an amazing voice, amazing presentation, and then the ritual by his coven is just amazing too. You've got to check it out, and then everything else is great too. But I'm just talking about night one. It's gonna blow your damn mind.
And the ritual was on the riverboat.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
A lot of times we got a moon hanging over us. I'm not sure what moon phase we're going to be in right then. I haven't checked, but it's beautiful. It's incredible.
Don't you guys get to walk around and see some of the sights of New Orleans?
Oh yeah, because Hexfest is right in the heart of the French Quarter. I mean, Bourbon Orleans. That means it's on Bourbon Street and Orleans. It's like right there in the heart of it. There's everything there. Right across from the Bourbon Orleans, there's a speakeasy called Potions that you gotta walk through this bar called Fritzel's, and in the back of that there's a door, and a lot of times there's somebody dressed in black guarding the door, but a lot of times you just gotta have the gumption to go through the door. There's somebody on black and on the other side. And there's a cover charge, but you get up there, and Potions is a speakeasy run by the vampire community that tends to be mostly witches hanging out there, especially during Hexfest. More witches than you can stand. You probably will not see me at Potions opening night because it's just too much.
Sounds wild.
Yeah.
Wow.
You should come, y'all.
Again, I'm going to mention the classes one more time here. Safety among social media witches, the old ways revived, and magical warfare, fighting dirty from the circle to the streets. And we are going to learn how to protect ourselves with Uncle Birch.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us here on Festival Fun.
All right, Joe.
Merry part, and hope
Merry
to
meet
see you
again.
next Wednesday
All
with
right.
another Hexfest presenter.
Yeah, make sure y'all check out Hexfest in New Orleans, August 8th through 10th. And also, if you want classes, right with them. That was up, and it's in the comments, and it's on the video feed. And also, if you just got to get some more Uncle Birch, you can check them out every night at midnight right here on www.witchcrafttv.online. Thank you so much, Uncle Birch. And thank you, AC Fisher, for a wonderful show. This is fun festival show with that marathon, with that Hexfest presentations. Awesome. I'm going to lead with the commercial for Witchcraft TV with you, Uncle Birch. Are you good, AC Fisher?
I am. Thank you so much, Lone Wolf. You have a great
Pleasure to be you all. Do y'all know about witchcrafttv.online? I think I hit leave. Been watching that the last couple of days. Bye, y'all. Constantly going. I'm learning interesting stuff. And it turns out, apparently, I have a show there at midnight every night at Witchcraft TV.online. Witchcrafttv.online. Check that out. I'm going to tune in at midnight and see what it is I'm doing there.